again, welcome. My name's Chris Lingle. I am real excited about this call. For anybody that doesn't know me that's on this call, I am a 30-year-old man that's trying to go back to, living the lifestyle that I used to whenever I was younger. I want to be able to travel and go on adventures and do all those fun, great things. I believe that life is very short and is, it's very short, and I believe it's meant to be lived in a big way. And that's really where I come from. I grew up in a middle-class family in Pittsburgh and went to nursing school because I wanted to make good money and have a lot of free time. And I had a lot of success in nursing, but I hit that point where, what's the next step? Where are we going to go from here? Where do I go up from here? And I didn't want to go back to school. And I met the gentleman that I'm going to bring on the line here in just a minute, and he taught me that there was a better way. He taught me there's a way to go out there and share products and services that you love with people and to build a large residual income and be able to travel and speak to people and help them still, coming from nursing, help them before they get sick. So in that way, in that regard, it got me really excited to do that. And Bryan, do I have you on the line here?
Yeah, I'm here, Chris.
Awesome. So like I was talking about that success in nursing and everything, and now, seeing what Bryan's been able to accomplish and his lifestyle and everything got me really excited. And what pumps me up about Wealth Generators is I believe, we're going to talk about building a list and going out there and ultimately maybe hit a little bit on prospecting with that. But I believe that we just have something for everybody here because everybody can use more money. Everybody can use help with debt, with bills. I mean, we were just talking today, one of my teammates and partners in this, Jessica, her health insurance is going to go up like $50 in next year, just the beginning of the year. They're like, if you don't change it, it's going up $50. And it's like, where are people winning? It's getting so much harder. People are working longer. They're working harder for less money, and everything is just getting more expensive. And it's so tough, and I believe that we really have something here with Wealth Generators that people can use to take that step forward in their life. So many people are just looking and hoping for something like this to where they can make some extra money, build a business, get those tax write-offs, and ultimately invest to where they can retire. And that gets me really fired up with what we're doing. So, Bryan, if you just want to just chime in here, tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we can start getting into what it is to build a really good list and prospect and everything like that.
Sure. Appreciate that, Chris. I'll just, briefly touch on my story. I've been in this industry now for 23 years. I got started probably the same way everyone on this call did. Somebody called me up one time. I was young, 17, and basically said, want to show you a business. And thank goodness I didn't have any preconceived notions of network marketing or anything like that. I saw it. I fell in love with the concept of it. Like a lot of people, I didn't have any success right away. In fact, I didn't have success for several years when I got in, but I just thought, if other people are doing it, I can somehow do it. And thank goodness I found a mentor and started learning the business the correct way. I went full-time with it at 19 years old and started making a six-figure income, and essentially have continued to do that for over 20 years. And I've watched this industry become so big. I just never would have thought it would be the way it is now, but who could have predicted smartphones and, the way the internet is and all these different things. And so, this industry has just gotten so big. And so it's just a great time to be involved in this industry because there is a lot of opportunity. I love the industry of network marketing, and I think sometimes it gets a bad name. Some of it deservedly so. There are companies out there and there are people out there that, misrepresent or go out of business, or it's not what you thought it was. But at the same time, I don't think there's a better way for the average person to be able to have some sort of a security in life, to potentially have a plan B, even if it's just extra $500 a month, or maybe, for those that really put some time and work into it, $5,000 or even more a month. There's really no limit what you can do in the industry. Getting over here to Wealth Generators is, to me, kind of a culmination of all those years of being in different companies and trying to figure out what's the best product and what works, and learning better how to judge a company and where it's going to go, because it's easy to pick a company that's already huge. I mean, we can pick multi-billion-dollar network marketing companies that are 40, 50 years old and will be here long after we're gone. So it's easy to find a company that will be here forever, but is the opportunity there? And there's, 2,000 new companies that start every year, and a lot of them aren't going to make it because they're new, they're startups, they're just ideas. So finding a company at that sweet spot where it's no longer a startup, but yet it has all its growth ahead of us is very rare. And finding a product that is really disruptive, that is going to change how people do something, where it's not just another XYZ product, that's also rare. And then having ownership that is, really in it for the distributors. Obviously, they have their own goals, but I've watched these guys. I consult for them. I've seen them make the right decisions time and time again. So putting all that together, it's just exciting with what we have here with Wealth Generators. Speaking of Chris, I was listening to his introduction, and the calls and our team is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We have stuff going all over the world. You'll see us continuing to get organized these next 2 months as the year wraps up, and really launching everything full force in terms of all of our pages and systems and everything like that. So as the beginning of the year rolls out. So anyway, with that, Chris, I'll turn it back over to you.
I love these calls, Bryan, and I love always hearing your story. And you plugging in has been so big for me, and it's something that you told me initially. You just plug in and do these simple things, and these calls always pump me up, and I get real excited. I'm on the side of now getting to teach some of these things, but being a part of it, I hope this is great for everybody that's on the call, and it's just always fun to hear that and just that reassurance that we are in the right place, and we had another winning day in trades and got me all fired up again, and the simplifier is going really well, the products are working, some new back office stuff, they're constantly improving, and I think that 2017 is just going to be a rock star year. And the beauty of this time coming up, and we're going to talk about building a list, is one is people are coming into, we got 2 months left, and whatever you do now will launch you into the new year. And also, right now is the time we're going to be starting to see a lot of people that family members, holidays, people are reconnecting, and it's just a great time to reconnect with people, and they're going to ask you, what are you doing? And we'll talk, we're going to do more calls throughout the, these weeks of inviting and things, but I want to get in building a really good list, because this is your tool to your business. I mean, your business is talking to people, helping people. So a list is one of your best assets. So Bryan, why don't you talk a little bit about building a list, and when you get into a company, you do it, no matter where, starting out a new company and always constantly adding to that list. If you want to go over some of those key points, and then, we can kind of go back and forth on what we've learned from building a list.
Sure. You say build a list, and literally every network marketing book, video, somebody who's been in it for one time, everybody's, the list, and they just overlook it. And I put it in the 10 steps as a second step for a reason. Yes, it's something you do at the beginning, but it's more than that. There's a real psychology behind it. Most of the time when people get involved in this business, if they fail or they succeed, it's kind of based on luck. And we want to take that, chance away, and we want people to have the best chance of success. So here's what happens when people get involved. Their friend tells them about whatever XYZ company. They get excited, they join, and they go out and they tell 5 people. And blah, blah, blah. And those 5 people have one or two reactions. Either the 5 people are just like, you know what, sounds dumb, you're dumb, sounds like a scam, hope you get your money back, whatever, I got robbed on that. It basically just absolutely just give you a bad reaction. And what happens to that new person? They're like, oh, wow. In their mind, they're like, well, shoot, I've called literally everybody that I know. That's what their mindset's going to be. Nobody's interested. Or that person calls 5 people, and people are like, no, marketing, I just happen to have my credit card right here. Let's join, and just have an incredible result. And those people are the ones who end up usually going and building and having success. And the other ones are the ones who usually quit. And if you could look at their progression over time, you're going to find that probably the same amount of people are saying yes or no. It's simply what happens in the beginning is determining that person's future. So we want to make sure that, okay, people have the best chance of success from the beginning and not just going to get some no's and quit. So a few things with the list. How do you start your list? You'll find that this is one of the things that people will fight the most on. This is the first act of working the business when you make your list. And I'm going to repeat that. Making your list is your first action step. It's the first act of actually working the business that you're going to do. And people think, well, signing up is the first act. No, it's not. When you sign up, what are you doing? You're simply buying product. Doesn't mean anything. People buy stuff all the time. Doesn't mean they're going to work it as a business. Even if it's your mindset you're going to do it, you're not actually working the business. You're simply purchasing product. The minute you put pen to paper and you're writing down that list, you're mentally saying, hey, I'm going to do this as a business. And you're going to find that people a lot of times they freeze and they won't do that. So getting them to write their list is actually getting them their first step towards working the business. It's breaking through that block. The other thing is that we want to stack the deck for a new person coming in. We don't want them just calling the first 5 people that pops in their head. We want them to take a minute, put pen to paper, and write down people and then say, okay, who are the 5 people that you have the most influence with that will give you an open-minded look at what we're doing, that would be interested in this. Maybe they've done this before, that type of a thing. So you want you to call it your 5 best people first, because guaranteed if you're calling your 5 best people, you're going to get at least one that's going to join the business, which means now that they've made money, they've done something. Like they can tell somebody, yeah, I'm already making money. I've already got people that are joining. So you're letting them succeed early on. And a lot of times when you say make your list, people, they will put like 2 or 3 or 4 names. And what happens in their mind is they start to qualify that list. What we're saying is no, we're just saying a list of everybody that you know. Because also, let's just say those first 5 people we call just happens to be all no's. It's bound to happen. Could happen to me. But if you don't have anyone else written down, you might think, oh man, I don't have anyone else. If you've got 100 people written down, 200 people written down, psychologically you're looking at this and saying, well, I got 5 no's, but I still have 195 other people to talk to. So what I say is, okay, every contact in your phone, every person you have on Facebook, anybody that knows who you are, if you sent them a message, they wouldn't be like, well, who is this? They should be on your list. It doesn't mean we're going to call everybody. You'll probably never get to everybody on your list, but that's the starting point when you start a person off. So I know I went long on that. Jumping into some other things, I'll pass it over to you if you want me to go into more details on some of the specific things.
That was perfect, Bryan, and I love that. And I was one of those people that was scared to call people. And, it's true. You need that big list because it's when you go back to it, my first real experience with that was I thought I talked to everybody. I thought, 3 billion people in the world, I'd talk to everybody. Nobody wants to join. And I went back to my list that you had told me to make, and I think I had 100 people on there. And I was like, oh, man, I haven't followed up with that one. That's a really good – I realized that there's more people out there to talk to. And it's something that, what I'd recommend if you guys have pen and paper is while Bryan's saying this, just start writing down names. And you can actually just time yourself. Time yourself for 2 minutes. Don't think, just write, and you'll get 20, 30 names right away. And the magic number Bryan has here is 100. But most people, they don't even believe it when you tell them. But if you've, graduated high school here in America, you have met like 2,000 people. They say that you should be able to know that they would know your name. And that's just small. But now with Facebook and stuff, and we'll talk about adding to that list. But, the one last thing I want to add there, Bryan, and we'll talk about, continually adding to that list and stuff is I heard a really funny way it was put was when people join network marketing, it's like a lottery ticket. And you have those 5 people are your 5 scratch-offs. They're your ones that are going to get you rich. And if you go through your scratch-off, the first one says no. The second one says you're an idiot. The third one doesn't call you back. The fourth one says no, and you're ready to quit. And the fifth one's your mom, and you beg her. You're like, Mom, please. And she signs up and keeps you in the business. But and that was me. My mom said yes. But I just think that's a funny way to look at it. And people, of course, those top 5 people, we want to talk to them right away. But it's important, like you said, because everybody's experience is different. So I love that. So I want to talk about prejudging people, because I think that's a big one. And I like how you said just put them on the list, because you don't know who is interested. And you also don't know who that's going to spark to think of later. You might say, oh, you put your cousin down, but then you think of your cousin's friend who was really great that you met at a wedding who was really into business. But let's talk about prejudging and then also adding to the list, because I want you to tell your story about the guy doing the yard work too, but just kind of talk about that.
Perfect. So, prejudging, it's natural. I mean, I do it. We can't help ourselves. We immediately, which is why people become afraid to talk to somebody, because they think, well, this person won't be interested. And here's where the turning point for me was on that. When I started doing business internationally many years ago, and also just around the United States, I remember, and this is in the early days of network marketing, people really didn't understand. It was not like net today. I mean, most people swear they'd never heard of it. You name companies, I've never heard of it. Like, it's completely foreign to them, even though it was already a huge industry. But what was interesting is no matter where I would go, no matter what country, no matter where in the United States, no matter a person's race, no matter their background, no matter their religious views, no matter what difference they had, I would get the same questions. No matter what, you would always get the same questions, people ask. And so what I started realizing is pretty much everybody is wired the same. When it comes down to it, maybe there's a few outliers, but for the most part, as humans, we're wired the same. What one person likes, most people will like, which is why you see movies that are big and why you see, sports that are big and songs that become huge. Like, people like a lot of the same things. And so when I started seeing that, I started realizing, well, shoot, pretty much then everybody's people, everyone that everybody knows, is essentially you're going to have kind of the same odds when you're talking to them as far as if they're going to be interested in the business. And if I like it, or I should say if you like it and you're excited by it, you're not that much different than everyone else you know. If they have all the information, they'll most likely be excited, about it too. So don't prejudge. Don't determine already if a person is going to like it or not. Let them make that choice. It's not our job to sell. All we're doing is we're simply sharing information. If you go to a movie that you really like, and just picture that, okay, the last movie you really liked, after you're done with it, what are you going to do? You want to tell somebody about it. When you pick up the phone or you're in a conversation with someone, are you going to sit there and think, gosh, okay, I really want to tell Chris about this movie, but how's he going to react? Maybe what should I say? How should I explain it to him? Gosh, what if he says he doesn't like it? Well, what if you're not thinking about that. You're just like, oh my gosh, Chris, have you seen this movie? Man, it's not, that's, it's incredible. It's awesome. I mean, you're just going to tell him because you believe in it. If he says, man, that sounds dumb, it's like, well, it's your opinion, right? I mean, let that person make that opinion, but you won't hesitate because you have that belief in it. What most people do is they already kind of put that out there. So part of kind of stopping the prejudging, and it kind of goes hand in hand, is starting to qualify your list. And that's when you go through, because still we want to try to grab the top people, but you want to kind of qualify the list, which means when I think of qualifying the list, and there's all kinds of people that give you different ideas and ways to do it, I simply want to just put a little notation next to all the people. You want to pick your top 20, your top 30, your top 40. So you want to just put something like, if you think they'd be interested in the product, maybe you put P. If you think they'll be interested in the business, maybe you put, B. If they have if you have a great relationship with them, maybe put R, next to it. And essentially, you want to be able to look through your list, and I don't want to get it confused because we're not prejudging everyone on the list, but this is once you realize you got to put every single person and let them make the decision. Who are we going to talk to first? I want to be able to look down that list and say, gosh, who's Bob right here? And, it says he's got a great attitude and he's done this before. You think we're interested in the product, whatever. He's one of the people we want to call first. So that's part of starting to get your stuff organized. And I apologize, Chris, because I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but I'm moving through the process here, getting into like doing your tunnel and everything like that, which we can I'll talk about in just a minute. The other thing is, what Chris was asking is to start to add on to your list. I'll never reach the end of my list. I know because I've been working on it for 23 years now. Like literally, I've had the same list, even though I sometimes rewrite it, things like that. I've got people that have been on my list for that many years. And because a person tells me no for that business, it doesn't mean that it's a no forever. I look at it as it's not the right time right now. There's someone that I'm going to come talk to later. I'm always meeting people. I look at my phone, I have like 1,000 contacts. I got 5,000 Facebook contacts. People out there want to meet you. So every time you come in contact with someone, you get a business card or something like that, throw them on your list. You may or may not talk to them, but what you'll start to do is you'll start to have this massive list. It gives you a whole lot of confidence whenever you're starting to work it and starting to build it. Do you want me to jump into kind of like that process of starting to build, or we'll take it back real quick?
Yeah, we're going to talk about like kind of that building aspect. If there's anything you want to throw in, absolutely down the line here when we get into some of the other
okay.
steps. But I love that, and I think that the way you said it I don't think you jumped around. I think you kind of took us through the process really well. And one of the things an insurance guy who was very successful told me, because he was about to start doing cold calls with his team. I'm like, oh man, I should send some of my people down. And the thing he said, his one line was, everyone is a yes until they tell you no. And it was like, wow, what a way to think about a list of people, that everyone on that list is interested in wealth generators until they tell you no, they're not, instead of looking at it the other way. And I still think about that when I make calls and stuff. But, and adding to the list, and I'd love for you to hit on this. Look, we're almost, down to, just a few minutes left on this call, but because we get so excited and they go so fast. But, always adding to that list, you're meeting people. And think about this. When I first started, if I can put this psychology in, I thought, oh my gosh, I got to go get people so fast. And I think this ties into what Bryan talks about, building slow to build fast. Think about how you can build relationships with people throughout the day, or you can make a new friend. And that's the key to thinking to growing your list. Like, how can I make a new friend? And even with now technology, if you're on Facebook or Instagram, there's ways you can message people or add friends in other countries of places you want to go to. Add that friend and start building that relationship without the thought of, oh, I got to recruit them, but okay, let me build a relationship with this person and see where it leads. And the last thing, Bryan, I want to hit on before you jump in, and I want to hear about you talking to the guy that did the landscaping real quick, and then whatever you want to add, is that most of the people now, after doing this for years, and Bryan, you can probably attribute this, a lot of the people on my list, I don't work with that from my original list. The ones I called, it was people that they introduced me to, or people I met along the way as I was building that list that have come into my business and built huge teams. But it was all through building those relationships through time. And sometimes it takes time, but I'll tell you, the power in it is starting. And that's where it is. You're attracting from the universe when you start to do these things. So it's really fun because you don't know where they come from, but all of a sudden they'll start to come because you're working towards your dream. But Bryan, go ahead, and I want to hear about the landscape, because that's just somebody that you added to your list that just randomly showed up.
Yeah. So let me go through two things. What you just talked about, building through people, other people's coming in once you start to build. Start thinking about this. When you're just starting, if you have 20 people or 50 people or 100 people or 500 people on your list, whatever it is, what happens when you get that first person in and they do the same thing, and they get a person in, they get a person in, and before you know it, you've got 3 people in your team, and they each have a list of 100. There's 300 now on your list. Our compensation plan pays you whether you're the person that brings them in or somebody in your team brings them in, even if it's 1 million people down. So what happens when you have 100 people on your team, 1,000 people on your team? All of a sudden you start to realize that this business truly is not about you getting 100 people to join. It's about 100 people getting one more person to join. And when that clicks for people, and it may not really, really click until it starts to happen for you, then you'll start to see the power of that. And that it's not, I don't look at network marketing as it's difficult to succeed. I look at network marketing as, if you're doing the business correctly, it's actually really difficult to fail, because just the law of averages, you're going to have a certain percentage of people that are going to get involved in anything. And it wouldn't matter if this call was about selling toilet paper or whatever. I promise you, there's a percentage of people that will get in no matter what it is. So I look at it as, especially if you have something really good. We should do a call also. I know we one of the things, but getting into prospecting and inviting off your list. And so we'll kind of do some throwbacks to the list whenever we do that, because they really go hand in hand, doing the tunnel and everything like that.
I think we should do that next week. We'll just skip to that one and do that next week. Past the goals, we'll do that one.
Absolutely.
That way it kind of ties in really well. Yeah.
Perfect. So, in terms of adding to the list, there's another side of this, which is, do you talk to somebody about do you lead with the product or do you lead with the business? Historically, I've always led with the business. Pretty much if I call somebody, they know what time it is. Brian's either calling them to come hang out and watch a movie or, and barbecue, or he's calling to talk to me about some business that he's in. And I expect if somebody is a friend of mine to listen to whatever business I pitch. And if they won't at least listen, then I can promise you we're no longer friends. Now, I don't mean that if they don't join, because a lot of my friends aren't going to join, and that's okay. We're still remaining friends. It does not stop our friendship. But, I expect that, if you are just sharing something non-threatening, hey, I want you to take a look at something. If you're interested, fine. If not, no big deal. So, kind of taking that tactic. Now, going back in terms of like adding onto the list, leading with the product or leading with the business, I'm leading with the product more than I ever have before in networking. And a lot of that is getting the belief. We know in this business, if you're on the simplifier and you've been on it this month, believe me, there is no one telling you that this isn't going to work, and you're not going to be able to stop talking about it because it is crushing it. And depending on what your settings are and everything like that, you've probably made 20, 30% this month already, based on the trades that have already happened. So it's really incredible. So when I first got into the beta test for the simplifier, I went to bed and I was looking at it all day. They set it up for me. I put, a few $100 in the account, and nothing happened. I thought, well, man, maybe I don't even have it set up right. So I went to bed that night. I woke up in the morning. My wife was waking me up. She's like, Brian, the guy's here to check the grass, from True Green. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm getting up. And what do you normally do, right? You click your email, or you click your Facebook, or you click your Skype or something. So I opened it up, and I'm about to just kind of click on something as I'm getting ready. And I was like, oh, shoot, I got the simplifier. So I clicked on it, not expecting anything. I couldn't believe it. They had done like 14 trades, and I'd made 2% that night while I was sleeping. I was stunned. I was trying to tell Mandy about it. She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, this is trade thing. She says, okay, look, go talk to the guy about the grass and tell me about your whatever you're talking about later. So I'm like, all right. So over there, I'm like talking to him, and I look at him, and I just say, after we're done talking about the grass, he says, I said, so what do you do besides this? Anything? And he's like, well, I'm probably going to go back to school, And I was like, almost kind of like that's the answer I thought, he wanted to hear from me. I was like, well, I didn't go to school. I'm not, judging you or something like that. I was just kind of curious. He's like, looked in my house, and he's like, oh, you didn't go to school? And I was like, no. And I'm an entrepreneur. He says, well, what do you do? And I said, I help people make money on their phone trading stock and Forex. It's like, how much money are you making in the market right now? And he kind of like taken back a little bit, kind of like chuckled. He's like, well, nothing. I said, well, look, I never made money in stock either. I was like, you do know people make money in that, right? And he's like, well, yeah. I said, well, who do you think makes money? He's like, I don't know. I mean, people that know. I was like, yeah, people that are good at it, the experts. He goes, yeah. I said, well, I have a business that we leverage the power of the experts. Just like if you could leverage Michael Jordan's skills, you could play in the NBA. If you leverage some of the best traders in the world and mirror their trades, you're all of a sudden one of the best traders in the world. And I pulled out my phone, and I showed him what I did while I was sleeping. He immediately was like, oh, my gosh, I mean, I could put money into that. I said, okay, well, let me take that a step further. If you were having success with this, would you share it with people? He's like, well, yeah, I'd probably tell everybody about it. I said, well, we have a referral program that if you refer 3 to the business, you're making $150 a month. If they do the same thing, you're making $500 a month. And there's really no cap on what you can make in our business. And that was it. So immediately he's like, wants my information, wants to know more about the business and everything like that. And right there, I added someone to the list. Now, I took it kind of far, but it was only 3, 4, 5 minutes conversation with him. You can always be what we call piquing interest, and we'll get more into this next week. And a lot of times when you pique interest, you're adding someone to your list. And remember, it's not an event signing people up. It's a process. The beginning of the process is having them on your list. Last thing I'll say, I know that's our time and we're a minute over, but your list, when you have it and you know your team has it and you're working off of it, it's very powerful. It's setting yourself up for success. It's laying the proper foundation for you to have a large business. It seems like such a simple thing, but every one of these little principles that we're teaching y'all are literally bricks in the foundation of how we're going to build a strong business. And every one of them by themselves is very simple and they seem very logical, but it's really easy not to do some of them. And when you lay that foundation, when you're doing those things correctly, then you're setting yourself up for success. So, hey, Chris, turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Bryan. That pumps me up. And like you said, leads right into what we're going to talk about next week, inviting. Same time, same place. And, I remember you just said to me once, you said, if you can get somebody to write down their why and make a list, you've got them 90% further than most, probably any other people have in network marketing. Because most people, if they fail, a lot of times they haven't done that. And you can always say, pull out your list. And if they haven't done it, it's like, well, how do you expect to succeed if you haven't done the building blocks, the foundation? So I love that. So call every week, same time. We got that new number. We're going to keep that going. Webinar on Thursday I'm going to do. It's no more than a half hour long, and I can answer questions. That's for newer people. We do weekly meeting at Bryan's house. We'll be posting to the GRT page. We got the YouTube page up and coming where we're going to add these to the YouTube page. And I'm going to start doing 2-minute videos, just little snippet training videos I'm going to put out there on the team page every Tuesday for you guys, just little tips and training that I want to keep adding to keep that value and keep this rolling. Everyone have a great night. I'm going to take us off recording. Go ahead and say your name on the way out, and looking forward to next week.